Josephine alcoholic. I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I do want to start by thanking Anne so much for this opportunity and the whole committee. Since the second I've gotten here, like the support and love has just been so palpable and so beautiful. Everyone that I've come in contact with has been like a little dose of God that's been needed and beautiful. And, a special shout out to my sponsorship family who drove here this morning. It's like, I didn't expect to like be hysterically crying, but it's like, I am so moved by the people that God puts in my life, and the lengths that we're all willing to go to support each other and just show up. And I don't get to see my sponsor, Deborah V., who's here like more than once or twice a year. So it's really special when we get to see each other in person. And I'm just so grateful. My sobriety date is December 12th, 2005. And, I'm going to go over super quickly a little back of 1, 2, and 3, right? So my step one for me, like what I've learned through the big book and really amazing sponsorship is step one is just that it's not that I can't ever drink again. It's that I am 100% guaranteed to drink again without spiritual help. It's that I have a disease that's threefold and I cannot arrest it without spiritual help. So steps 1 and 2, I can never control and enjoy my drinking. I was never able to. And I often ruin things that I had set up for myself. It's like the biggest part of my alcoholism. Like I got sober when I was 18, okay? So there wasn't many things that a lot of my life was obligatory. You have to go to school, right? I would skip school. Everyone wants to skip school. But there were things that I would set up for no one's benefit but myself and then take a drink and then not be able to get there, right? And those are also the moments of my real alcoholism. It's also this peculiar mental twist. And it's so important for me to remember I have actual holes in my brain. So I cannot remember what happened previously. I can't bring into mind how bad it was last time. I always think it's going to be different, or I always think it's worth it. It's just worth it to drink. So that peculiar mental twist, still lives in me, right? And I've had moments where I'm driving down stone cold sober. God, show me if I should go see him or not. Give me a sign. And I've gotten a clear sign, a 2x4 to the head from God. And I'm like, that wasn't a sign. That is my alcoholism to this day. It's tunnel vision. Obsession is a thought that outweighs all logic. And that's what happens to me with my alcoholism. And that obsession is still so alive and well in me today, despite the desire to drink being arrested. Thank God for today. So then we go into 2 and 3. And for me, it's this guy used to say in my first home group, I only have 2 options, God or whiskey. And still today, it's it can't be any more simplified for me. There's no door number 3. Fast forward, 19 years, and it's door number 3 is a great career and a good family, or being, a speaker at AA conferences. There's just no door number 3. Every single decision I make is leading me towards God or whiskey at all times. And when I keep it that simple, life gets easier. I have a quote from Bob D. He says, there's a whole world of difference in doing some of what is suggested versus all that is suggested. And this is something that I really believe, and am super powered by. So it says in the book, right, half measures avail us nothing. And it's what are the measures? If I think about up until step 4, what are the measures up until step 4, right? Praying every day on my hands, on my knees. That was suggested to me. Calling a sponsor and going through the step work once a week. Calling 3 other women on the phone was suggested to me since the day I got sober. And there was no texting when I got sober. And there was almost no cell phones when I got sober. Going to a meeting every single day, and number 5 is being of service to someone else. That's 5 things. It's a basic 5 that I have been doing pretty consistently for 19 years. But when they say half measures avail us nothing, it's if I'm doing 4 of 5, that's 80%, And like 80 feels a lot like 100. Like it's very easy for me to be like, I'm doing all the things. I don't know why I'm not feeling better. And then it's like, no, are you actually calling 3 women a day? Well, not today. I could be strong, maybe last week. No, I'm just not doing 100%. And if I'm not doing 100%, I'm not getting the freedom promised to me in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So like that is, if I leave you with something today, it's 80 is not 100%. Right? I have to do all of this. So, and it's, I'm going to say it again, half measures avail us nothing. So like 80% doesn't get me 80% freedom. It just gets me 0. It's like, stop doing anything. Okay. I'm moving from an open mind to God, which happens through steps 2 and 3, which was so funny to me. Like, I'm homeless. I have 3 felonies. I'm 18 years old. You want me to pray? Like, you think the 3rd step Shakespearean prayer is going to help me get a place to live? Like, a job? Like, it was so hilarious to me, but I had no other options. There was no other houses on the block. It was all, my first year in Alcoholics Anonymous, I was also in a halfway house, was fully forced. I didn't have the 3rd tradition. I didn't have a desire to stop drinking. And I acted as if, because I was stuck in a halfway house with no way to get out. And one time I did really run away from it. And I ran for like 4 hours and they could still see me because it was like this just rolling hills of Moscow, Pennsylvania. And they were like, come back. Like, where are you going? Which is like such a metaphor for my whole life, like just running away from what's good for me with nowhere to go better. So this brings us to step 4, which is like, Anne doesn't even know me that well. And like, it's the most passion that I have about anything is step 4, other than God. I just have so much to say. Like, I could talk for the rest of the day on step 4 only. It's a fact-finding and fact-facing process. It's an effort to discover the truth, why I did the things I did, drunk or sober. And I'm one of those people that, like, I was in several psychiatric institutions before I was in several rehabs. I was in almost every child study team in the state of New Jersey, like up and down the coast. Like, what is wrong with her? Like, diagnoses galore, psychiatric facilities just giving me more crazy behaviors. And like, it says it in the big book. If you actually asked me why I did the things I did, drunk or sober, I had no idea. I had no idea why. Like, and it was like silly stuff, like obviously why I drank the way I did, why like I just couldn't like hold relationships, friendships, anything for more than like a month. But also like at 16, I had made my parents so insane with the ways that I acted, the ways that I threatened them, the horrible tornado that I was ripping through our household every day, almost causing them a divorce, really saying to her, at like 15 years old to my mom, like, if you don't buy me Newports right now, I'm going to kill myself, right? Like, that was my dynamic with my mother every day. And, it just, my curfew was like 2 a.m. at 15 because they didn't know what to do with me. They were like, okay, 2. And I couldn't even get home by then. Do you know what I mean? Like, there was just, no matter what I had, it wasn't enough. If you gave me an inch, I was taking 20 miles, and I could not control the way that I acted ever. I could not predict myself under any circumstances. I had no control over how I acted. And step 4 was the first time that I started to understand why I acted the way that I did. I had been to therapy. At one point, I was in therapy 5 days a week. I just can't get helped by a non-alcoholic. Me. Other people can. I need a woman that's armed with the facts about herself to take me through some columns to help me understand what's driving my behavior and why I'm acting the way I do. My first 4 step, all right, so I sit down with my amazing, amazing sponsor. I have it all written out. There's so many people. And the first one, I changed her name. We're going to call her Miss Muppet. And she's my next door neighbor. And like for 4 years, I've been driving by her house, which is next to mine. So it's a lot, right? And I'm like, throwing up the middle finger, F Miss Muppet. And like anyone that brings up the Muppet family, I'm like, they are the worst. Like, I'm just charged with a level of hatred and anger that's so improportionate to anything that could have happened. Like, they're my arch enemies. And I've never given it a thought, right? Like, I just decided that they were the enemies, and they're the enemies. So this is my first resentment during my fifth step. I read to my sponsor, I say, Miss Muppet, why she sent me to the psych ward. And, like, the real story, then I, start to explain how she sent me to the psych ward. She happened to be outside. I was 16, my brother was 12, and we were both cutting school. I had taken my brother at 12 out of school. My parents were at work, and he was walking down with a handle of vodka outside to bring me. And she called my mom, like any neighbor would have done when she sees a 12-year-old holding a handle of vodka. That's not okay. And it's a completely appropriate response to call an adult, right, in that situation. And, like, it ended up, like, my mom came home. The cops ended up getting involved. I was in a tank top. There were scars all over my arm from self-harm. And I ended up in a psychiatric facility. So the story then for 4 years was Miss Muppet sent me to the psych ward. And, like, that's how I lived my whole life, was that I made up fluff narratives about the people and why everything was their fault, and then I rolled with them so hard. And it's like, in 1 minute, that one was dispelled quickly. Like, as soon as I said it to her, I was like, this is insane. As soon as it came out to another one. There were others that took years of inventory for me to see the truth in, but that one was relieved instantly. My second fifth step, and I'm going to tell you about a few of my fifth steps, right? Because I've been sober 19 years. I've done a lot of fifth steps. I continue this process, and it's like writing the fourth to the fifth. So like the second time I write a fourth step, it was completely around men and my body. And I was just unable to address that the first time. I think I had 2 years sober. I had tried to start dating. My life was completely unmanageable around men. And I had to go back through the step work, more focused on men, and my body and other things. We fast forward to my fourth and fifth step. I was in a relationship that turned so abusive, and I knew from our first date I didn't like this man. I was positive. And like 6 months later, we were living together. And he was abusive. I wasn't even attracted to him. Like, when you ask stone cold sober, why am I making the choices that I'm making, right? And this is later on in my notes, but I need to talk about it now. Mark H., in one of his talks about, like, look back to your last year. How many choices did you actually make? Right? If I'm being driven by 100 forms of fear, am I really making choices, or am I just a slave to my fear? And that's what this relationship was, right? But it's amazing when I sit down with these God-given columns and good orderly direction from a sponsor, how all of it comes to life. And I can just clearly see, I got onto this college campus. I was scared I was going to be over promiscuous because I had been in the past. I latched on to the first man I saw that had a job that was in AA that gave me attention, all with the intent of not being promiscuous and making my parents happy. But I just didn't think it through, he didn't match my ideal. We had nothing in common. He was 20 years older than me. Which is fine. But this was not fine. So, yeah. That, I gotta take a sip of coffee. That led to another big amends to my parents, right? And 5 years sober. I remember I had 5 years sober and I went to celebrate, and just like hated myself. It was a really tough year of a celebration. I just felt like I had nothing to give. That relationship really beat me down, but I had to make a formal amends to both of my parents, right, about what I took them through. The beautiful thing is that through the 4-step, I was able to actually have confidence that I could take responsibility in full for the harms, that it wouldn't happen again because I did understand what was driving me, and I was going to cooperate with God to try to fix it. The last 5th-step experience, 4th and 5th that I'm going to share specifically is it was probably my 20th. I lost count at some point. And it might have been around 2017, and it was really focused on institutions and principles. And I got to a point where I was so caught up in what was going on in our material world that it was making me physically sick inside. And I was so upset about what people were saying, what people weren't saying, too much social media, that I genuinely the level of self-sabotage was so intense, right? Hurting no one but myself. And I did a really long 4th and 5th on a lot of principles and institutions, and I learned something that was just so valuable for me. It's become a God rule. When I do these inventories, usually by the time I get to a fear inventory, I come out with a God rule, right? This is the way that God wants me to act. What is a better way? What would God have me do instead? And that's my new rule for living. And one of my rules is that I can't be the advocate. And I'm only up here sharing my experience with you all, but this is my truth. I'm a born social worker. Something's inside me that I'm just trying to help people. Advocate is my nature. And if I want to stay sober and sane, I cannot teach anyone anything. I can't educate anyone about anything. No one needs to know my opinions on anything. This is just for me, what I've learned in sobriety. There's a line in the big book that says, we don't have the luxury of being the grouch, the brainstorm, and I add end advocate. I'm just not allowed to work against any systems, again, for me. It just causes me so much mental anguish. And all I can focus on, and this is what came up over and over again in my inventories, is the 4 walls of my household and the people in it and what I can control and good sponsorship and supporting women. So just the layers of the onion that was talked about last night, the crunchy brown was gone a long time ago, but there's 150 layers of that Bama. I'm not even close. It's unbelievable. I'm going to read a little bit from page 66. It is of our basic text, the big book. It is plain that a life which includes deep resentment leads only to futility and unhappiness. To the precise extent that we permit these, do we squander the hours that might have been worthwhile. But with the alcoholic, whose hope is the maintenance and growth of a spiritual experience, the business of resentment is infinitely grave. We found that it is fatal. For when harboring such feelings, we shut ourselves off from the sunlight of the Spirit. Deborah always says the big book is full of death threats and promises. This is both. Infinitely grave and fatal, right? Scott L. talks about that he pictures resentment as ice around his heart. And it's something I've always felt, but I never heard articulated this well. He says the thickness of the ice depends upon the depth of the resentment, how long it was, and how much I've been nurturing it, watering the resentment, helping it grow. And the sunlight of the Spirit and prayer is the only thing that can melt that ice, right? And for me, all the self-knowledge avails me nothing. Just like I can't go to therapy and understand the reasons why I'm doing everything I'm doing and then just change, It's like Nancy Reagan, don't do drugs. No matter how much I know it, no matter how much I know why I'm doing the things I'm doing, unless I go through the process of 4 through 9, which is my rules for connecting with my higher power and clearing my pipeline, I can't change. And if I want to sponsor women and if I want to carry this message, I better keep my pipeline clear. I have a higher level of responsibility. I'm going to talk about some of the benefits that I get out of the 4-step, and then I'm going to talk about how I write it. and we're gonna get into like some nitty-gritty. So some of the benefits, right? It's like that stuff was taking up so much real estate in my head. It still does. It's not past tense, right? But over the years, like I have been able to clear a lot of it out by the grace of God. And it's like, imagine what I could contribute to this world if all that real estate was available in my head. When I tell you every year for the past 19 years, the more I've written inventory, the more capacity I've had, the amount that I hold up today in this world is astounding. And it's so supernaturally beyond my own capacity. Like, I sponsor a lot of women. I am a single mother. I have a dog. I have multiple properties. I have multiple jobs. And it's like, and I say this by God's grace that I make it look easy, but like, it's not me. It's not me. I like can't even get myself out of bed in the morning. Like I can't do anything. I was kicked out of 9 high schools. Like I'm not a person that has capacity, you know? And every year that I let go of more of these resentments, I just get more mental power to wake up in the morning and be like, whose birthday is it today? What anniversaries are this week? What can I do for others? What can I pour into the stream of life? Like it just happens, right? When I am free. It's like, some of you in this room, you might be like artists. You might have books to write, but you have so much anger, hate, and false stories in your head that we're never going to get the book unless you do more inventory. It's just incredible what is inside of us. I'm so glad that clicking stopped. I don't know what it was, but it was crazy. Okay, great. You know, another thing that Deborah says that just like is so important to me is like we're women practicing. It's one of the most simple lines, and it reverberates in my head constantly. I'm not supposed to be amazing. I'm not even really supposed to have gotten better. I am still the same wretch that was scraped off the floor like a piece of gum that had been stepped over 100 times, salvaged by God, still ready to burn my house down any given day, 19 years later, without God's help. Like, I'm not better, you know what I mean? I just have more ability and resources to go to God. And we're just women practicing together. So it's like, sometimes I choose 30 minutes of writing to bang out 4 columns. Sometimes I choose 30 days of suffering. Like, it's whatever I want, right? Sometimes I choose 3 years of suffering. And what my first sponsor had me write at the top of every page of my first inventory was, how free do you want to be? And it echoes in my head for 19 years. How free do you want to be? Do you want to do 30 minutes of writing? Because that's really all it takes, guys. Like after you've gotten through a big first 4th step or a big 3 first 4 steps, you really just probably need 30 minutes to write out whatever's going on in your head and then air it out with someone else. And you will have a new level of freedom. Okay, so the shame stuff. Another thing from Scott L. that I love so much. I don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly, God can't make something magnificent out of it. I have done horrific things that I was definitely taking to the grave. I've done horrific things sober. I've done horrific things last year, right? That I would never like to share with anyone. I have a sponsor that always answers me too. I have women that I can really say anything to, that I know are gonna love me no matter what. And my sordid past becomes my greatest asset with enough humility, right? Like the vulnerability that I share with the women that I work with helps them more than my big book quotes. Because, like I'm good, like I can quote the big book. It doesn't matter, right? The pain, the suffering, eating disorder treatment at 16 years sober, pain, suffering, nightmare relationship with someone that's drinking around the clock, 18 years sober, having a baby with a stranger, 17 years sober. Like I'm still clearly like I have some issues. And, these things are transformed into my greatest asset with enough humility and by being vulnerable and honest about them and by growing up in public. So I'm going to take a sip of coffee. A power sip. Okay, let's talk about how I do a 4-step. um, so I started with my first 4th step was really basic and simple, but it was columns. And like, I do have to say that it was so important at this point. That basic 5 that I talked about previously is so freaking crucial. Like, if I'm not grounded with support from a lot of women and I start to write out all of my anger, I'm gonna fall off the side. If I'm not in the middle when I'm bringing up all this stuff, I'm gonna fall off the side. So it was 4 columns for resentments, it was 4 columns for fear, and it was 4 columns for sex and harms. And I'm gonna actually show you what it looks like. And I have a lot of this available for you all too. And like, there's no wrong way to do a 4-step. I would say as long as there's columns, I would add that little asterisk. But you know, everybody, whatever your sponsor's telling you to do is the right way to do a 4-step. This is just what's worked for me. So this was like really basic, right? It was like the first column, name, I have a QR code that I'll give you all after that has all of this in a Google Drive. So you don't even have to take pictures. And for any of you that don't love the technology piece, I have printed copies so you can take a picture after because it's easier than the slides. But it's like, you know, the person, why I'm mad at them. And then in my first simple 4th step, I was just told to check off what it affected, right? And those were the 7. And then it was, you know, the 4th column, I was urged that it's called my fault. It's not called my part. I don't want it to be dramatic. It's not called my part because that means there's 2 parts. And I was taking full ownership of this resentment and my harms. So I'm going to move to, and again, these will be available. I'm not talking through these ones right now. But this is with sex and harms. And it was pretty simple, right? And this set me up so well for my A step because it was like, oh, the list is already made. The people I've harmed is already made. So these were basic and really helpful for me in the beginning. Since I have continued my journey, and now I do use a deeper version of the 4-step that's from Awakenings, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with. This is one of the parts that it has. So like in the 3rd column, right? I'm writing out a sentence for each of these. And it's really, really helpful for me to just go a layer deeper. Again, for my first 4-step, this wouldn't have worked for me. It did work for a lot of people. I know that. I had a lot of resentment and I was like so brain dead. I couldn't even put a sentence together. I could barely read. Like this was too much for me. Now, this unlocks so much for me because it gets me to what's really driving me. And the brackets next to each one is for like what fear comes out of that. And the longer that I've written inventory, the more I've realized, oh my gosh, like I only write resentments to get to the fear. Like I don't really, like the resentment inventory, okay, it's helpful. It's telling me what fear is driving me. And this person that I heard recently said, you know, they have a Kia. They drive their Kia. So they get in the car, they turn the ignition, and then they steer the Kia. They are driving that car. If they are not driving it, it's not moving, right? And that is how my fears drive me. Like when I'm stuck in them, they're calling every single action I make from the second I wake up to the moment I go to bed back to this idea of, do I really have a choice in what I'm doing during the day? Or is fear just literally carting me around to whatever I think I can do to manage it? Why? It's okay. It's okay. All right. Yeah, I had a better version. It's fine. We can still see it. Okay. I had a cool thing on the PowerPoint that like showed 1 column at a time, so you didn't go too over it. It's fine. I'm going to take you off it for a second while I keep talking so you don't just read the whole thing. So later on, I started using Big Book Awakenings. Yeah. The Kia. I'm doing it. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit about my fear inventory. So it's coming up. I do fear inventories a little different nowadays, and I wanted to get into the nitty-gritty with you all. I hope this doesn't feel too much like a lecture, but when I tell you this stuff has set me free on a level that I didn't know that could happen, nothing charges me up more in Alcoholics Anonymous because nothing has helped me change more with God's help. So I list the fear, that's easy. Column 1, we get it. For the second column, I do something called a fear tree, which I know is not what everybody does, but it's been so helpful for me. So I'm going to actually read through this with you. Did I print this one out? I think I did. No? Okay. Fear tree. So it's I do, if my first fear happens, then what? So it's a kind of simple thing. Again, I know, I see people taking pictures. I promise you, you will have access to this, and it will be better than what you're seeing on there. I promise you. So it's if I lose my job, my fear is losing my job. That was a recent fear I had. I wrote this out. If I lose my job, then what? Then I will not be able to find another right away. If I'm not able to find another right away, then what? You see how this is treeing, right? In this fear tree, we want you to go dark. We want you to actually spend a moment in horrific projection. It's important to be safe mentally when you're doing this and have support. But it's gotten me so much help. Because and this is my favorite example, when I'm walking across the street and someone almost hits me, and I react with this aggression, what are you doing, right? What I'm really screaming is, I don't want to die. And so when I have an interaction with my boss where he makes me feel like I'm not good enough, I'm actually saying, I don't want to fail at life and relapse and die. That's where I'm going, right? There's a lot of layers of the fear. So if I can't then I can't afford my mortgage if I don't get another job in time. If I can't afford my mortgage, I don't know why I have to read it because I know this in my heart and I wrote it. Then I have to sell the house. If I have to sell the house, then I will have less assets for emergency funds. If we don't have assets for emergency funds, me and my son cannot survive and will become destitute. And that will lead me to relapse and die. And it's really dark and it's really sad and it's really painful. But that's what I'm reacting to when my boss doesn't say, good job today, Josephine. And it's I have to know that, and I have to start addressing those deep-rooted fears so that I am not constantly bouncing off of everyone around me and reacting to what's actually my self-centered fear of me and my son dying destitute. Because that's what it is. So, the benefit that this really, let me talk through the rest of it and then I'm going to say the benefit. So, but did not I myself set the ball rolling, column number 3. How did self-reliance fail me? How am I contributing to the fear? How am I avoiding the fear? I get so specific here. The more specific you get in this column, the more directions you'll have for your future of how to be, right? So I compare myself to others' financial situations constantly without knowing the whole picture. I try to get validation and financial security from work, from my boss and work, which he does not give that out. I work very hard to be indispensable, which is a full delusion because everyone is dispensable in the workplace. I haven't written a current budget. I don't use my sober reference to how God has brought me through my career path to this point. I don't always go above and beyond at work. So sometimes I want a trophy and I've done nothing to earn the trophy. I have a cynical attitude when I feel I'm not getting enough recognition or direction. So as soon as things go south, as soon as because I'll go the extra mile and then not be rewarded. And then for 2 weeks, I'm not doing anything at work. I'm clocking out early today. This is not, these are all the things I do that contribute, right? And then I get to my 4th column, my new God rules. What perhaps is a better way? And now you see how as specific as I've been in 3, the more direction I'll have in 4. So what came to me was to mind my business at work. Let go of security, the role of businesswomen. That's a role I've assigned myself. I am a CEO in training. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a serious businesswoman. That threatens the role that I've assigned myself. I own my worth. Be indispensable to God. Stop blaming my boss for my demand for more security than I'm owed, right? No one has security in the workplace. Seek financial counsel from professionals. Write a current budget. I walk away from this with action steps. If my 4th column in my fears just says, trust God more, it's but how? How? Like, it's like, don't do drugs. Like, okay, let me trust God more. How? How do I bring God in? And then I just put this because this came out of this. So I wrote new affirmations, and I wrote them out and I read them every morning before work after I did this inventory, which was about 6 months ago. The affirmations were like, stay in my hula hoop, no comparison to others in the workplace. My worth comes from my creator, never supervisors in the material world, right? So that's freebies if you want to take that and use it yourself, because it's really helpful, right? I have been following God's path to build the assets for my family's success, and that's all we need. I learned 19 years ago that affirmations actually work. And I have to fight back against my alcoholism, that devil that comes at me and continues to tell me I'm not good enough, this is not going well. I have to constantly fight against that. All right, so let me go out of the weeds. I'm going to go back to reading a beautiful quote. I can't believe I'm doing okay on timing. I'm going to go back to the QR code so there's no distraction. Okay, we are now on a different basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our finite selves. We are in the world to play the role he assigns. Finite, right? I think things are division instead of multiplication. I think there is a very small amount of love, security, money, protection, and if I don't get it, someone else is gonna get it. And in God's world, there is abundant, infinite love, goodness, mercy, everything I could ever dream of. It's multiplication. It's not division. It is unlimited. When I tell you, I had my first sponsor. It's like a funny thing. She had me write a bucket list, on New Year's Eve. And then she had me seal it and not look at it for a year. And I opened it and like so much of it had happened. And I hadn't been looking at it all year. Like I hadn't been like actively working to me. Like I forgot about the bucket list, right? And like her point was like, God knows what's in your heart. You don't even have to tell him. Like he knows more about you, whoever your loving higher power is, than you know about yourself. And he is divinely organizing and planning all of it so perfectly, but you have to get out of the way. And I spent years clawed on ex-boyfriends that were so unimpressive, clawed on situations that did not serve me, right? Dragging women by the hair in Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever version of, no, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? Not trusting infinite God instead of my finite self. I'm going to read another inventory with you all. It's a short one. It's on my son's father. A lot of people have already heard it in this second row right here. They've been listening to my inventories for like 3 years straight on him. And he's a person that just all but ended me, right? Deborah's been telling me to go to Al-Anon. I still haven't gone to a meeting yet. I was like, but you don't understand. I left him. I don't need to go to Al-Anon. I kicked him out. But it's like I have to co-parent with him. And so this was like at a time when we had been in a kind of okay place after really bad, police involvement, just can't even be in the same room. So much charged anger and emotion that I just saw red. He brought me to a place that I forgot was inside of me. It had been years since I had reacted that way to anybody or was willing to get in the ring with both gloves on and just anger, war. Wow. So I guess 6 months after my son was born, we hadn't talked at all. And he was he told me he got baptized. I was like, oh God. And then I was like, oh my gosh, maybe he's changed. And I called Deborah and I was like, he got baptized. And he said that he hasn't sinned since. I was like, and I wasn't even playing it like I had hope but inside of me. Y'all, this is the son of my, this is the father of my son. I so badly wanted it to work. I was so tied to the ambition of being a family unit. It could have killed me. And Then he came to visit like 6 months after that, maybe, and I had all this hope. And he like just casually ordered alcohol because he had said like, I don't drink and I no longer sin. And I was like, thank you, God. I was like, we're really on the path. And then, yeah, he like casually ordered alcohol the next time we were together. So I had written this after that weekend. And I said, name. He gave me hope and glimmer of our future together, but he's actually the exact same. Pride. He should realize how special I am and marry me. Security. I am not worth marrying. And like, this is how I flip-flop, right? Like, and I hold both of those at the same time in my head. Ambition. I want us to be a happy, peaceful, loving family at any cost, even if it kills the three of us. I want a family unit, right? Great intentions. Giovanni needs a good father. It's better to have both parents. Good intentions that will literally explode us. Sexual relations. Real men should earn my trust to lead me. Otherwise, he should be still groveling from his past. One or the other. Choose one, right? And this is why I'm reading this, is the fears that came out of it, to show you all what came out of this, which is still shocking to me. I wrote this a year ago. I'm still shocked by this. The first fear I wrote was, if we're not together, he will marry someone else and fight for custody of Giovanni, which I knew was there. That's like a really scary fear. The second fear that came out of my pencil, I could throw up still thinking about this. I had no idea this was inside my body. It just came out of my pen, and that's why we have to do this. Fear, he's my best shot at having another child. Like, and it's not sad. It's not sad. I'm gonna have another kid, it's gonna be beautiful. You know what I mean? But like, I had no idea that every time I'm interacting with this man, that's driving me. I have no idea that, like, I don't even have a choice in what I say because I need to hold on to this option for a second child, even if I hate him. I just have to get pregnant. That's insane. I had 18 years sober when I wrote this, right? I am driven with the best intentions by the craziest fears. And like, the moment that I saw that, and I continue to be humbled by this man and like seeing him clearly finally and being like, I can't believe that that was my best choice for my life. I can't believe that my best thinking said this is as good as we can get. And like, that's the case, again, limited versus unlimited, abundance versus limit. It's just so humbling. What else do I want to say? Dude, I'm doing really good on time. I'm just proud of myself. Okay, I'm going to talk about ideals for a minute. So I start with these ideals. The first time I write, I'm going to pull up my paper. I'm going to do what God tells me to do. See if I can get to it really quick. Can. I was directed to this chapter. I was directed to this page 1 trillion times in the first years of my sobriety. Page 69 and 70. So, you know, I talked about like struggling with men. Clearly I have a problem, right? I don't know, maybe some of you do as well. So I had like 2 years sober, and I'm going to this women's meeting every morning, every Saturday morning in Ridgewood, where I got sober, where I spent a lot of my sober time. And I'm making poor decisions on Friday nights. You know, I'm not through the steps yet. I'm like going to a meeting, going to the diner with AA people, drinking multiple energy drinks, smoking a pack of Newports, driving up and down the highway. Like, I'm just not ready to go home yet. I'm just not ready to go home yet. Listening to rap. Rap is reminding me of my ex-boyfriend. And I forget what you say about like boyfriend. Let's call them boyfriend, you know, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Men that I have relations with. And then I'm like, this sweet, sweet voice comes in, and it's the same peculiar mental twist. It's like parallel with my sound thinking is some trivial excuse. Maybe I should just call him. I wonder how he's doing. And then I'm like at this man's house that like introduced me to PCP, right? With like 1.5 years sober. And, you know, just making mistakes over and over again because I in fact hate myself. Like, I've gotten sober. I'm no longer thinking about drinking every day, but I don't have any self-worth. It's like I've been through the steps, And I'm still facing, wow, I still don't like myself. Like I've been delivered from alcoholism, but I haven't been delivered from really disliking myself. And there's a lot more work to be done there. So I'm like, sleeping with men, and then the next morning I'm waking up and I like can't drink the pain away. I can't drink the things away. It's just there, and I have to think about it. And my sponsor's saying things to me like, you can do whatever you want in sobriety as long as you're willing to accept the consequences. And the consequences are grave. I'm ending up needing to get STD tested. I'm concerned about, what's going to happen. Like there's just the consequences are grave and I can't predict them, right? And I'm showing up at this women's meeting on Saturday morning crying every week. And bless their hearts, they were all a lot older. Mind you, I'm 19 at the time. I'm or 20 at the time. And they love me so fiercely, and they keep sending me back to this. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some tell us so, but this is only half truth. Again, it is half true. If I keep stumbling and not living up to God's ideals without trying to change or cooperate with him, I'm going to drink. I'm going to drink. Like if I keep acting like the same person that I used to. But like, what's the chosen ideal? I had to have that in black and white. Because I'm one of those people that up in my head, it's a swirl. It's like 10,000 rubber bands. And I can pick and choose whichever one I want at any point. And I just have no grounding. So after I wrote my first fourth step, I wrote my relationship ideal. There's a lot of different ways this is done, right? But I looked at all of my previous relationships, and then I wrote what I was looking for in a partner and how I wanted it to look. I read that to my sponsor, and she said, okay, you're looking for that in a partner, and now you need to go be that every day in your relationships. And she actually had me say the St. Francis prayer and then meditate on one characteristic from my relationship ideal every day, and then try to bring that into my relationships for that day. And it was so powerful. But I've had to do more since then. As you can tell, like the ground is not, we're getting there. I don't know if the picker's still broken, but it's a struggle. I've written multiple relationship ideals. I've also written job ideals. I've gone back through inventory, looked at how I've been treated and how I've interacted with previous bosses or institutions I worked for, and then created a sane and sound job ideal for what I'd like for the future. Like this process kind of works for anything in my life, and it's miraculous. I think the last thing I'm gonna leave you all with is like the biggest benefit I get from this work, right? It's like I have this, the pole. This sparkly ass pole right in front of us. It's like a pole that was my first curse this whole time. A pole that big is cemented through the core of my body now. That's what the fourth and fifth step gave me, and the whole steps. Before that, you could sway me any way you wanted. Somewhere I had the definition for vicissitude, and I lost it. It was like any vicissitude, just like, oh, you want to be this way? I'll be this way. You want to be this way? I'll be this way. You said this to me? Oh, now I can't function. Like, I just was like so swayed. I could be broken in a second by external things. And the fourth and fifth step has given me this column that runs through my body that has this level of, it's corny, it's Godfidence. It's a security in God that I did not know was possible for a woman like me. It's a set of values and morals and a code that I live by. It's a way that I can usher new women in and have confidence for them and what's going to happen in their lives. And it is just a certainty, because the word certainty is dangerous for me. I try to not be certain about anything except for that my Creator loves me more than anything in the world, and that I am chosen by God to live an extraordinary life. And I can walk with this love for myself and for others that was just never possible before. So it's like, I just can't say enough about what I've been given. It's a column. But I go back all the time to things I've been delivered from. I'm emotionally immature, and I assign myself a lot of roles that I am unable to fulfill. And that, if I can remember that like I'm not better, I just woke up this morning again emotionally immature and unable to fulfill the roles I've assigned myself and go back to God through this 4 through 9 process, then I think I'm going to be okay.